everyone, and welcome down to episode number 103 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits, here in Ocean Grove, Victoria, Australia, and the guy on your other screen or in your other ear, if you're listening to the show, it's Cam Blake, back in his home state of Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. Hello, Cameron.
Hello, Brendan. Yes, back home into the land of the living, I guess. I don't know.
The land of milk and honey.
Land of milk and honey, land of fresh air and interesting people. Yeah,
That's
I'm
right.
back home. It's good. How are you going?
And smaller vehicles.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
Doing well, thanks. In the throes of we're mid-December, so in the throes of the Christmas trade, retail at Christmas time doesn't get old.
You love it, don't you?
Been in retail probably since 1996, kind of. So I don't know how many years that means, but that's a lot.
So if you could describe your love of retail at Christmas time in one word, what would it be? Get the bleep ready.
Tiring. And that's being polite.
That's a soft word. Come on, you can do better than that.
I'm one of the lucky ones. I can count on one hand the amount of people that give me a hard time in December.
This year or in general?
This year. So the people generally they don't really lose their minds until maybe 3 or 4 days out, and it's always the same person. It's that person that has forgotten that they had to do this to get something done with me, and then all of a sudden it's my fault that I can't do it because I've got 400 jobs ahead of theirs. But their
name is.
That's right. They don't listen to the show. It doesn't matter.
Well, we'll just talk about that. We've pretty sure we've lost one viewer over the last few days, which, you know what?
No, that's okay. We can't please everyone, Cameron, but we can please the 723 of you who have subscribed to the YouTube channel so far. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And also, we're racking up the milestones on the audio side of things as well.
Are we? All right.
15,000 bloody downloaded hours and stuff like this. It's pretty crazy. Next week I'll have all the actual stats for you. There you go. I'm not organized this week, but next week I will.
Next episode is all about stats.
And it's funny you should say next episode. It won't actually be next week. We are actually going to put out 2 episodes this week because we're going to make up for lost time.
Oh, is that what we're doing? I thought we were going to do one tonight, and then you're going to release this straight away.
We're going to release this very quickly. It might not be Monday night, but it will definitely be before Tuesday. So because we didn't do one last week, we've got to give the fans what they want, Cam.
So then we do another one later in the week to release.
Yes,
You're crazy. You've gone off the rails, mate.
You're crazy.
You're crazy. Crazy Americans.
That's right. One of the big game changers this year for me in retail, though, is I no longer produce the canvas prints out of my shed.
Yes,
that's been a big game changer. I can now put canvases together at my
that is
shop location.
Big game changer. That is a big game changer because it's just probably just that travel is a pain, isn't it? Like just doing
logistically. So moving canvases can be a little bit tough. You got to be nice and careful. Then they're a little bit fragile, but also it's a big difference now that I don't come home and go to work. You know what I mean? I come home and get to record a podcast with you, mate.
Yeah, which is sort of work, isn't it?
It kind of. But not
feels
really.
like work sometimes.
When I can sit
it never feels like work.
When I can drink a Furphy crisp and,
I'll tell you what I'm enjoying being back in Australia, being back home, is actually drinking beer that has some alcohol content to it.
Right.
It's, I'm sorry, anyone listening in America, you know what? I had a whole heap of stickers and I had a whole heap of little things to drop off. Do you think I left them anywhere? Nope. Because everywhere I went to leave them, I got looks saying, you're not going to leave that there, eh? Right. But there's one thing America don't do. Well, they do everything pretty well, Americans. I give them that.
Yes.
Like, it's a pretty amazing country. One of the biggest things they don't do, well, gun control is probably the biggest thing they don't do very well. But the second biggest thing is beer. They just don't do beer. It's terrible.
Right.
It's like licking a gutter in a drain. It's just everything we got. Even though it was like what's Bogues? Like Bogues is, I don't know what percentage it is anymore, like 5%, 4.6% alcohol.
Yeah, there you go.
And we were drinking, we had a couple of beers over there that were 5%, and it didn't taste like beer at all. It just tasted like a sort of poorly flavored water. So lift your game, America, get some better beer.
So you were enjoying more of the imported beers than the local drops.
I ended up going different. I ended up going for the hard liquor. I ended up getting on the scotches, and they were okay. They seem to do them okay because they import them from Scotland and Ireland, so they were pretty good.
Right. Clearly, our drinking problem has a podcast attached to it. So,
Absolutely.
Yes. So, welcome home. Good.
Thank
Look,
you.
right off the top, let's talk about your trip to the US. We can start with your background if you like, given that that's
That's a fantastic idea.
That's a good throw straight into a talk about
right.
your trip. So, go for it.
All right. So this background is a pretty famous strip of road there. So this is as you're coming into Monument Valley, which is technically in Arizona, I believe. So we headed that way after we'd done a few of the other national parks in Utah, heading down towards Page, Arizona, where we stayed this night after here. But coming down this road was really cool because this is the Forrest Gump road. This shot is taken from the Forrest Gump viewpoint. So Forrest Gump has got his own viewpoint, which I think is pretty cool. And we're lucky enough through the whole trip, really, but we didn't have much tourists. There wasn't many people around. All the places we went were fairly quiet. So we got here, and I think maybe we were there for about half an hour taking photos. I reckon maybe 5 cars passed us. Like, this is a very popular place to stop and take a photo. But yeah, we stopped there a few times. 5-Star Dan did a bit of a reenactment of Forrest Gump running up the road, which got a few laughs online. But yeah, so that's Monument Valley as we drove south from Utah into Arizona before we swung around back into Vegas.
Very cool. It just looks, I mean, obviously that's an iconic landscape, but Monument Valley there just doesn't look real. It looks like I'm looking at a Roadrunner cartoon.
Well, it does. It has that real color to it. And it's funny because it sort of pops up out of nowhere. Like, there's all canyons wherever you go around this part of America, but when you get there, it's the opposite. All these things just start spiking up from the ground. So we could actually see it from a long way away, and we're driving along, and I think we're about 70 or 80 miles away. And I said to Dan, man, that might be Monument Valley over there. I'm like, nah, that's miles away. It doesn't look like it would be it. And it was. So, and then over the other side, there was a town we stopped in. I can't think of the name of it. Had the dodgiest McDonald's we'd ever stopped in.
Okay.
We stopped in there to have a quick bite to eat, and it didn't smell good. It didn't look good. It wasn't in a really good neighborhood. So we got our little cheeseburgers and got out of there pretty quickly.
This is the birthplace of McDonald's. I'm sure they would be appalled to hear that.
Well, it wasn't great. And what's funny thing was, when we walked in there, we sat down for about 5 minutes, and Dan's looking at me, and I'm looking at Dan, like, oh, this place is a bit dodgy. And this family walked in, and we hear the dad go, "So what do you want? What do you want for lunch?" I was like, "Oh, there's Australians here." So we're like, we're not the only stupid people walking into this dodgy McDonald's. So
yeah, no, there you go.
Yeah, so that's Monument Valley. I'm sure there's probably people that listen or view the show have been there, and they understand how much of a beautiful spot it is.
Now, those of you who tuned in last week will know that we had Cam live from Zion National Park in Utah, which was pretty cool. So we sort of got up to speed with with your trip up until sort of that point. And then you headed off into more canyon country. And now the whole crux of this is, of course, if you were scouting locations for your awesome US trip that you're doing next year.
Yeah, that's right. So unlike some that I see in the business, so some people put on trips to places and they've never been there, and they sort of just go there and wing it, which I don't like the idea of that. It sort of seems a bit risky for me. So this is purely a scouting trip. So we wanted to figure out timing. We wanted to figure out how long we needed to stay in each sort of part of Utah around these national parks. What hotels to go to, what restaurants to eat at, how much things were worth, just get it all sort of costed up and scouted. So that's what we spent. I think we ended up spending about 8 or 9 days there doing that. So yeah, you saw me in Zion last week. And then after there, we went through Bryce Canyon, which we got snowed on. And it was minus 10 degrees Celsius. But it felt like it was about 5 degrees. So we got up that morning for a sunrise, and we looked outside, and the place was covered in snow. The car was covered in snow. Got in the car, it said minus 10. We're like, oh, this is going to be chilly. But there was 0 wind factor. So it was just still as still could be. The sun was out. We met a lovely couple who had come down from Alaska, who, funnily enough, were moving to New Zealand next week.
Wow.
They had some family friends that had moved there, and they just packed up everything. They were driving through America, and then they were going to catch a plane and go live in New Zealand. So that was pretty cool to run into people like that. And then after that, where'd we go? We went Bryce Canyon. Kept going across further, and ended up going through a really cool little national park called Capitol Reef National Park. which is quite a sort of skinny national park along the highway. But that had some really cool mountains and canyons in there. And then we made it to Moab, which is sort of adventure capital of Utah, although there wasn't much going on there. It's pretty quiet. But we went to Arches National Park and then Canyonlands National Park. So that ticked off the big five, the mighty five of Utah that we're going to do on this trip. So we got to see it all. Didn't spend anywhere near as much time as we'd like to there, but the idea was to scout it all out, find our locations for sunrise, sunset, and tick off all those boxes, which is what we did.
Awesome. Yeah, the images that you were putting up on social media throughout your trip looked fantastic. Looks like you've found some pretty good locations that you'd be able to take your punters to, and a lot of sunrise and sunset stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, there is. So like the same as anywhere, really. Sunrise, sunset, like that's where the best light is. So that's what we're sort of going to aim for most of the trip. But because it's all sort of canyons and mountains, you can sort of play around until sort of almost lunchtime before the sun really starts getting in there and causing any issues. So we shot most of the day, and then we sort of had a bit of maybe an hour or two off to have some lunch during the middle of the day, and then we go back out in the afternoon. But some of the places we saw, like Zion National Park, lived up to everything I thought it would. I can't wait to get back there next year with folks. It's a place I would love to go and spend just a solid 2 weeks out and do some good hiking and stuff through there. But we drove through a bloody mountain. There's a tunnel that goes through the mountain for 3 kilometers. It's ridiculous. They just do things really well over there. That's what I've noticed. We're talking off air about that whole issue with Tasmania parks and wildlife going on at the moment. We're not going to touch on it because it doesn't need any more oxygen.
Yeah.
But driving around America for the last couple of weeks, like they do national parks really well. Yes, you pay a fee to get in there. That's fine. But the roads are great. The shuttles are great. The walks are great. The signage is great. The facilities are great. Everything's top notch. So the money that you're paying to get in there is going purely back into the park and making the park a better experience for everyone. And the sooner that people realize that maybe in Australia that putting money back in the national parks, above and beyond what we normally pay is not a bad thing. Like it's actually going to be a good thing for the environment. It's going to be a good thing for the park, and it's going to be, good thing for people coming to see our country. So that was something we took away. Even Daniel, who probably doesn't have as much experience in national parks around here that I do, he said the same thing. He goes, these places are incredible. Like everything's just so well done. And
I
we're
would
really
probably
impressed.
Put that down to weight of numbers. Like visitors to the parks there would be a lot higher than visitors to the parks, well, certainly in mainland Australia and certainly to Tasmania, and because it's just that little bit further away, a bit harder to get to, all that sort of stuff. But I'd be interested to see national park visitor numbers. So I just did a quick Google, and Utah is 269,000 square kilometers. To put that into some perspective, Victoria is 227,000 square kilometers. So
it's funny. It's funny you've done that because we did the exact same thing when we were driving around.
Yeah. So Utah is marginally bigger than Victoria, and yet I would imagine the visitor numbers to the national parks would be tenfold on what we get here.
Well, it's funny you say. I've just done some stats. Like, for example, Uluru would be one of the most popular national parks and places. You would think so. So Uluru, on average, gets around about 300,000.
Yeah,
350,000 a year. People go through there.
Yep.
Zion National Park gets over 5 million a year.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So what's that? 10,
huge
12,
difference.
15-fold. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. But you know what? Like the infrastructure I'm talking about, it's not mind-blowing infrastructure. It's just the roads are nice, the walks are nice, the signage is good, and it's the organization. The organization of the park flows really well, and all of them that we went to. So, that's where I think people that complain about having to pay fees and have to go in the national parks here.
Well, what's the park fee structure like in Utah? Is it one fee for all of Utah, or is it per park?
It's a bit same here, really. Like you can pay like $30 to go into a Tassie park with a car for a day, or you can buy a yearly pass for like $90 or something like that.
Yeah,
which gets you into all parks. They do the same over there. So we bought an annual pass, which got us access to every single national park in the States.
Wow.
Not just Utah, everywhere. And it was $80.
Yep. For a 12-month pass.
Valid for a year.
Yeah.
And that's a vehicle. So we bought it at the start, everywhere we went in. We just showed the card at the ranger thing. Yep, come on through. Do you want a map? No, we're good. Enjoy. See you later. It was a 5-second process.
Yeah.
It was really, really good. And, the same thing happens and this is something that we also spoke about. What I think Australia lacks on a couple of different levels is they have the National Parks Service, or Services of Interior, whatever it is. So it's a department. So all their national parks are nationally managed. They're federally managed. Where here in Australia, all our national parks are all managed by the state. Correct. So you can go to Victoria, you go to New South Wales, you come to Tassie, and you'll have 3 different experiences on how you access and gain and pay for getting into a park. I think there's a big potential there to merge it all and make it a federal department and have all the national parks under one umbrella, run centrally, and everyone keeps their job. They just wear a different uniform. They all go under like a federal award or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I think it would work better because it really did work well, and it was poles apart from what we see in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we could certainly, by the sounds of it, I've never been, but it sounds like we could take a leaf out of their book for sure.
We've got one spot next year if you want to come.
There you go. See, if I want to come.
Yeah. There's one spot left, mate.
Sounds very enticing.
Yeah. We'll do a special rate.
When is it?
October.
Go on, get a plug in for it. Come on.
It's October 24th to November the 3rd. 2024. Fantastic. Meeting in Vegas on the 24th. So you got to get yourself to Vegas, and we'll drop you back there after we've had some fun. It's
going to be great. It's on the list, on the bucket list for sure.
Yeah.
So once you got through Utah, you went back to Vegas for a couple of nights. Is that right?
Yeah, we did. We actually we went past the biggest hole in the world. We went past Grand Canyon as well.
Right.
So we drove a bit further south. It was good. It was a bit of just a flying visit on the way through.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there before, but Daniel hadn't seen it, so we thought we might as well go over a bit of a squiz. And then we headed back to Vegas for a few days. And yeah, we didn't misbehave too much. Vegas has got that temptation to go crazy, but we didn't. We actually we got a little bit drunk in Moab. We had a big night at the Moab Brew. If anyone, actually, there might be people listening because a couple of people. We actually met some guys in Bryce Canyon who. The night it was -5 or -10. There was a swimming pool and a big jacuzzi there, and we thought, we'll go for a swim in the heated swimming pool. Which the heated swimming pool was a bit like their beer, underrated and underheated. So we ended up and all these 3 guys walked in. I can remember one of their names was Rodney, and they're a couple of brothers. They all worked on the mobile phone towers, and they were doing work the next morning in -10, 150 foot up in these towers. Anyway, we ended up jumping in the hot tub with them. They were watching some American football and had a chat to them. But Rodney subscribed to the audio, I think, of the podcast. So g'day to him.
G'day, Rodney.
If he's listening. Hopefully they didn't freeze to death on the pole the next morning.
Well, he wouldn't be listening if he froze to death.
No, that's true. That's a very valid point.
So
yeah. What was your question? I've gone off track.
Oh, no, I just said you've wrapped up the trip with a couple of extra nights in Vegas.
Oh, yeah, Vegas. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so we just walked the trip.
But you behaved yourself. You got off the chain in Moab.
Yeah, that's right. That's where we got off the chain in Moab. So yeah, but yeah, we behaved ourselves. We did lots of walking. One day we did 30,000 steps up and down the strip, just walking up and down. And for those who might have followed my Facebook page, Daniel got himself a little bit of trouble live on a bit of a walkthrough with a couple of young ladies who wanted to get to know him better. But yeah, it was good. We had a great time, and we did a fair bit of driving on the wrong side of the road, which is always fun. And we saw some beautiful sights. It's a beautiful country. Did you find the photography that you and we I did put a few shots up last week on the show as well of some of the shots you got. Did you find it came easy because it was just such a beautiful landscape to shoot? Well, yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
were you trying to avoid the cliches, the shots you've seen 1,000 times?
Well, that's funny you say that because the only national park I did any sort of looking at was Zion. The rest of them were where I went there completely unprepared, no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
So we landed the first day. We stayed the first night in Vegas. Then we drove from Vegas into Zion, and I hadn't taken a photo the whole time I'd been there until we got. The first night we got up to Zion, we got there a little bit late, so the sun was starting to drop, and we thought we'll go for a quick look in the park. We've got a couple of days here. Let's go quick have a look. And as we're driving in, I'm like, holy shit, Daniel! look at this, look at even he's like, oh my God. I'm like, slow the car down here, take a photo, slow the car down here, take a photo. And then the next morning we went in there early and we got a nice sunrise, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel. Like everywhere you look was a shot. And then the other thing I've done, which I think I've done really well, which was sort of planned but not planned, the autumn color when we're going next year is going to be absolutely spot on for all these places. So, there was those beautiful, I had my inner Ben Horn on, the autumn tree against the red rocks and things like that. And so, it was great. Every location we went to was just mind-blowingly good. And we got lucky with the conditions, like to get snow at Bryce Canyon. So all those pinnacles are all covered under snow. That was a bit of a godsend. The Arches National Park, we got some good light there. The only one we struggled a bit was probably Canyonlands, which is sort of opposite to where Arches was in Moab. That's a bit trickier, and it's sort of two parks in one, but there's a big giant hole in the middle of it, which is called the Colorado River. So you go to one end of the park, then you got to drive like another hour and a half to get to the bottom end. So that was a bit tricky. But it was good. Like there's some stunning scenes around even between the national parks was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
you're gonna have a hard time trying to tell your guests what gear to bring, or is it fairly obvious?
I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. What's going to be hard is moving them on to the next spot. So this is a 10-day trip. We could easily spend 10 days in Zion and explore the whole park, but we can't. But you could easily spend 4 or 5 days in Moab just exploring parks there. So I think the tricky bit, and that's why we did this scouting trip, we've actually changed the itinerary around a little bit. So we were originally going to spend quite a lot of time in Zion, but I'm like, we can't do that because the rest of these parks need as much time, if not a little bit less than Zion, to really get them nailed in. So but like I said, in between the national parks, like we were driving along, like pull over here, over here.
Yeah. I would imagine it's kind of like, everywhere you go, when you go somewhere for the first time, you sort of, get the taste for it, and in the back of your mind, I got to come back here. And then
totally
explore. Yeah. I mean, clearly you're not going to be able to explore everything everywhere all at once, which was a terrible movie, just by the way. How did that win Best Picture?
Which one?
Anyway. Everything Everywhere All at Once. That won Best Picture last year.
God, mate, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, and don't bother. Seriously. Anyway, I don't know.
Bother.
I digress.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you go to a new, like, with me with Tassie, like, I've barely scratched the surface down there, but I'm like, wow, well, I'm definitely going to go back there, and definitely going to go back there, and So,
well, this is the thing. Like, as I was flying back the other day, I was looking through some photos of my little iPad. And I'm like, God, I wish I could have stayed there a few more days. Like that's got so many. So it's going to be one of those places.
And yet the shots you did get were great.
Well, this is something, and I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet here, but
it's your own podcast, mate. If you can't do it on here, where can you?
Well, we'll get hate mail. Like even Daniel said a couple of times, like I said, look, let's just go here, let's shoot it like this, and he's like, how do you do that? How do you see that and just shoot it? I'm like, I don't know, that's just what I do. I enjoy doing. I see something, I'll see the light or whatever. But it was, I guess once you get to a point where you're proficient at what you're doing, like anything, you can sort of go to new places and still create nice images without having the time that you probably normally want. So, but the good thing was, like, because it was just Daniel and I, there was no customers. Like him and I drove. We can drive through the night if we wanted to. Like we don't sort of need to worry about anyone else but ourselves. So we were able to make a lot of ground up, even though we weren't there for too long. So we did almost 4,000 kilometers on this trip in 8 days there. So, we've got it all marked down. Daniel's writing notes every national park we went to. Every hotel. Let's do this one. And so we've got it all down pat. We just got to fast forward a few months and get there. That's the main thing.
That's right. Gets you towards the end of 2024, which just blows my mind that we are now like 2-3 weeks away from 2024. It's been incredible. Yeah.
Well, I said that on the live one from Zion. It's still blowing my mind that there was Christmas decorations up. And like everywhere we went, we'd walk out of the hotel in the morning or get there at night. Like, it's a bit chilly today. Why the hell have they got Christmas decorations? It's the middle of winter.
Yeah.
I was telling you off air that we got a little bit bit joyful at Moab in the brewery. And as we walked out, we realized the main street was dead because the next street along had a huge Christmas parade going there for a couple. They had like 2,000 or 3,000 people there watch this Christmas parade.
Fantastic.
We're there, and it's like 2 degrees. Like, this doesn't make sense. So all we needed was Clark W. Griswold.
Oh, I mean, perfect.
Perfect.
In his timber-clad station wagon.
You know what? It was so funny. Like, some of the places we went to, it's classic America.
Yeah.
If you've never been to Utah, people, Utah, it's a bit of a different state. It's not as it's not as gun-toting and gambling and drinking. It's a lot of Mormons live there. It's quite religious, and I like it. I think like it seems to be very settled down and very cool. And everywhere you go, people are lovely. We didn't run into anyone that was obnoxious or gave us any trouble. Everyone's super helpful. We made a whole heap of friends at that brewery who have passed on information and exchanged details and stuff like that. Even one guy in the bar.
We've talked about that before on the show. Like a pro tip, like if you want to, if you really want to explore a local area, talk to the locals.
Talk to the brewery.
go to the pub, have a beer, strike up a conversation with someone who lives there, and you will get into the best spots.
It was so funny. There was this guy in the pub. We were talking to a couple there. They were lovely, and they come down with their trail bikes. I think they were doing lots of adventure stuff at Moab. And these other two guys who apparently had just met that day forward driving around the backcountry. Daniel and I was talking, and this guy comes up to me. He goes, I know those Australian accents are fake. And I think Dan turned around and said, "Pig's ass, mate." And the guy goes, "Oh, no. Okay. You're proper Aussies." And so like it's good. Like I said, get immersed in the locals and have a chat to them. And the guy that was serving us, Ben, his name was. I'm trying to hook him up now with Franklin River rafting. He's a raft guide on the Colorado.
Oh,
and needs something to do on the off season. I said, well, I can pass your details on to these guys. Maybe they need guides. And so it was great. It was a really good trip. So we had
doing
lots
community
of fun
service while you're over there. I love it.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, keeping people employed.
Awesome. I'm glad you had a great time. So if you would like to snap up the last place on Cam's Utah tour in 2024, there's a link below in the description.
Yeah, it's probably gone now.
Probably. We've got a bit of homework to do here. The November People's Choice Award from the October Trees competition has been run and won. Cameron is going to hand out a voucher of some sort to the following person.
Was it $200?
You said it now, so I guess it is. You can't make it
less
$100.
No, it's $100, I think, isn't it?
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
Whatever it is.
The winner gets
200.
200. The People's Choice gets the 100.
Gets 100. Yeah, that's right. So let me just type that in the notes so we don't forget.
Yeah, that's right. So remember for next time.
Yeah. So the winner of the People's Choice was Grant Smythe, who had that great beautiful image. Riverbed scene with the river gums, and
it's on the screen now.
Of course,
it is. It's on the screen right there.
That's that was definitely in our top 2 or 3 that shot as well.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Grant. We'll be in touch with you or vice versa. Hunt us down for that $100 voucher.
Yes.
You can put it towards the Utah trip.
Absolutely. What a great idea.
What a great plug.
I like it. Yeah. We have kicked off the December competition, folks. For those of you who aren't following us on Facebook as closely as you might want to.
Or should be.
The December photographic competition on the Down South Photo Show is summer. The theme is summer. Make of that what you will. Already had a plethora of what are they called? Entries coming in.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, a heap of entries have already come in. So hit us up on Facebook. It'll be the pin post on the top of our Facebook page because Cam's now pinning it as we speak. Well, he will be by the time this goes out. And give us your interpretation of summer in preferably landscape, but in a photograph. We want to see.
What about if the person's name's Summer or something like that?
Well, that would be worthy of an entry, I would have thought.
Maybe. I like how you hung shit on me about trees being a terrible topic. Now you've just gone summer. Like
that's right.
You've just gone a whole season. Like, come on.
Well, I thought I'd narrow the brush stroke a little bit, but I didn't really narrow it that much, did I?
Sorry. No, not narrow at all.
I think that's called making a rod for your own back, isn't it?
It is. So, all right, let me. Is it pinned? I don't know. I haven't pinned it.
It will be eventually. That's fine.
All right,
we can do that off air, I'm sure.
Makes great radio.
It does. Fantastic radio. Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
why do people always ask if their image is better in color or black and white? Why does this happen? It seems to happen regularly on social media. People will post a color version of a photo and then they'll post a black and white version of a photo. Which one do you think I should use? Which one's better? I can't decide.
There's a couple of
distraction.
There's a couple of answers to this. Which one do you want? Do you want the nice, kind, fluffy answer, or the one that's going to probably upset a few people?
We'll get both. Let's upset people. Come on. We haven't quite upset anyone in this episode yet, so we should.
Well, let's get cracking. I think people ask that. I think some people. I'll clarify that.
Don't back down.
So I think some people put that up because they just like the idea of getting some attention.
Yes.
And if they put it up there and go, "Is my car like?" What does my head is when people put up a really nice photograph. They go, "Oh, what do you think of this?" Like, you know, if it's a nice photograph, don't pull my leg that you're not sure. You just want people to stroke your ego, and I don't like that. But so I think some people put it up there purely just to get some attention on their photo, or get some conversation on their photo, or get some sort of controversy going on their photo that might get them likes and hits and stuff like that. I think other people might ask because they generally just don't know which one looks best. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, I think, in my experience, both of them look pretty good. Color will work most of the time, and so will black and white. So, but I don't know. I think people, again, I think people might have a bit of confidence issues with their photography, and I don't know. Like case in point, today I almost had a massive brawl online with some. I don't even know who he was. I posted a couple of my Utah shots on. It's called World Class Photography or World Class Landscape Photography. I see a lot of American.
I think I'm familiar with it.
I see a lot of American outbacky shots on there, so I thought I'll share a few shots up there, and I put up one of a shot I did, and this guy writes back, "World class?" ? And I wrote back, so, well, I didn't name the group, dude. You know, he goes, "Well, do you think it's world class? You obviously think it's a world class photo. That's why you posted it in his group. So is that a yes or no? Is it a world class photo?" And I started loading both barrels up. I went, I said, "Do you really want to go down this path?" Because I checked out this guy's work, and his work was shit. I'm sorry. He was a shit photographer.
Yeah.
He had terrible color, terrible composition. He was not good, but he thought he was just going to poke someone.
But he's a keyboard warrior, so he thought
he's a keyboard warrior, so he thought. No, I thought better of it and went backwards. But that's one of the reasons why people are so doubtful about putting photos up, because again, we have people that jump on and comment. You know, the shot behind you, which, mind you, didn't say it was Barwon Heads, but it's Barwon Heads. The shot behind you, you put that up and go, "Oh, I'm put this up as a color shot," and then someone goes, "That'd be better as black and white," or "You should have done this," or "You should have done that." Like, people are very gun shy these days to put photos up. So I think one of the reasons they do ask color or black and white, I think it's a bit of a cushion around what people might say.
Yeah.
There you go. Do we upset
anyone? No, I tend to agree. And I don't think, why pose the question? What do you like? Like, just don't ask other people's opinion. And look,
who gives a shit?
99 times out of 100, they're not going to sell the image. They're not going to do anything with it. They're
no.
It's like they're bored. It's just stop it, or stop it already. Stop clogging my feed.
Yep. And this is the thing. Like, this is one thing I hate. I truly hate about photography these days, is all the BS that happens online with comments and people sharing stuff and sharing thoughts about photography. At what point, I've said it a million times, at what point do we just forget about photography being about the love of being outside, or enjoying the location, or enjoying the art, or even just enjoying the fresh air? Like, why do we have to care what other people think about our photos?
Yeah.
Put them up. Put it up as black and white. Who cares? Put it up as color. Who cares? If you like it, so be it.
Exactly.
I guess it's different if they're asking for like constructive criticism. So if they're saying, "Hey, I've got this shot. I've done it both in color and black and white. Which one do you think works better? Because I'm really confused." That's a bit different. You know, they're asking for some help and feedback. But I know the ones you're talking about. I think they're the ones that purely put it up there just to get some attention, and then once people start commenting on it, they take offense to something, or someone else says something. It's just like,
it's the modern world, Cameron. It's the modern world.
It's funny. It's like you've been reading my mind today. I was sitting on the couch before upstairs, And I got sucked into watching reels on Instagram. You know, you just flick through all
it's
this
a bloody rabbit hole.
It's a
You're right.
cesspool. It's a cesspool of the human shit. Is what it is. And I got halfway through, and I'm like, why the hell am I watching this crap? Like, just ban social media. You know what? Just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah,
that includes us. Shut us down.
Yeah, we're done. This is it.
Just stop. Just stop the whole social media. Go back and talk to people face to face. Go and share your photos in a town hall or an art gallery or something.
Get them printed.
Get them printed. Do something, because it's just bullshit. I'll tell you now. I'm all a bit fired up today, but
no, it's you know what it is. It's the algorithm. It's the way that, you know, Instagram's gone to the dogs, man.
Instagram, I wouldn't even wipe my ass with. Instagram, it's terrible.
It's gone. It's all reels. It's too TikTok-ish. It's you know, it's no good at all now.
You know what I'm missing for Instagram. I reckon I could be very, very good on Instagram with my photography if I just had a set of tits.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that I could just show off.
Yeah,
if I could just, and then I know what people are saying. I can hear it. Oh, but that's because you must watch them all. The algorithm just keeps getting you sets of boobs all the time. No, I flick through it. I even block them. I even report them.
Yeah,
and they still come through and annoy me. So if you're a young, amazingly well endowed young lady who's good at photography, you can be making squillions if you just happily wore next to nothing and showed your photos off.
And do a heap of selfies.
Yeah, selfies. Oh,
a couple of people also yelled at the screen, "You have got a set of tits, Cameron."
I do. Shut up. You can talk.
Absolutely. Glass houses.
I tell you what was an absolute hit in the States, beyond my wildest dreams, was my T-shirt, "Stop taking selfies because no one cares."
Yeah.
So I wore it out of the hotel at Vegas on the night we got back. And I walk downstairs with it. We just go for a walk up the strip. And I walk out and there's a couple of big black security guards. And the guy looks at me, he goes, "You." And he gives me the big fist pump. He goes, "I love that." He goes, "That's perfect." I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm walking through, and I reckon, like, it got to the point, Daniel was like, "I'm just watching people for their reaction on your T-shirt." Yeah. I got stopped by that many people saying, "Amen to you, sir. That is perfect." I could have sold, if I had a bag of them, I could have sold them, and I didn't. It was amazing. But yeah, you're right.
It is a good T-shirt and a very good sentiment. For those of you who do want to see selfies. My background full screen, there it is. That's
can't we see your boobs instead? Come on.
No, sorry. That little seat right there. I love this seat.
Oh yeah, there. Yep.
I love this spot. For those of you who are coming along on our one-day workshops in January, get an eyeful of that, because we're going to take you right there. So it's a great spot.
We'll be there in summer, won't we?
We will be there in summer.
Do people swim there?
Yes, people do swim there, Cameron, and we're going to have big zoom lenses. There's a theme about tonight's show, and I don't think I like it.
It's got boobs written all over it.
Can I just quickly spread the love about that spot where so it was about 3-4 nights ago. I was a little bit over retail, so I thought I'd go for a bit of a walk after work. And I decided to take one lens. I did a little one lens challenge on myself.
It's good.
Took the Olympus, artist formerly known as Olympus, EM1X with the 100 to 400.
You were perving.
Yeah, well, that's right. And you know what amazed me? Okay, so the weather down here hasn't been that great. The last week or so, it's actually been cold, a bit wet. We had one day where it got really hot. This wasn't it. This was the day before that, I think. Anyway, I got down to, this is from the Barwon Heads Bluff, which is sort of a little, it's not a national park, or it's sort of like a reserve, I guess. And there's a little track that goes up and around. As you can see, there's the track that follows down along the edge, and you can see it in the distance there. It's a magnificent spot. I was the only one there. I was like the only person. There was no one on the beach. There was no one on the tracks. I was like, have I missed something? Like, has the apocalypse happened?
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a broadcast going on that I don't know about? Yeah.
Berserk. And I absolutely bloody loved it. I got back in the zone again, and it doesn't take long. When you've done it as long as we have, it doesn't take long to get in the zone, I think. No. Particularly when the light's good, when the subjects are good. I photographed what I thought at the time was a peregrine falcon. It turned out to be a Nankeen kestrel, because Thank you, Sandy, for pointing that out to me. I sent her a picture. Sandy, you know Sandy. Sandy.
Yeah, I know Sandy.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I sent her a photo of the Nanking Kestrel that I got, and she's like, I said,
Yeah.
can you ID this for me? And she's like, it's not what you think it is. I went, God damn it. So
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate when people look at something straight away and just go, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, what? I thought I researched it.
Sandy is quite the expert on this, so she knew. And then later on, she sent me a picture of a peregrine that's nesting at the bluff. So,
right.
Yeah. So I'm quite looking forward to in January when we get down there to show people that little spot. It's gorgeous. It's such a good part of the world.
Well, I did tell you before that we have sold out the 19th of January.
Yeah, I'm just seeing that in the notes. Look at me keeping up.
Yep, sold out. And the 18th has 3 spots left over.
So we are talking about 5 weeks from now. So if you're keen to come on board, we've got 3 spots left on one day, one of the one-day trips here on the Ballerine.
I think that's a Thursday, the 18th.
That sounds right. Thursday, the 18th.
It is.
It's actually quite the week for workshops for me that week. I've got the 18th, the 19th, and then on the 21st, I'm with Glenn Lavender here as well. So,
well, I can beat you. I've got 18, 19, 20, 21.
There you go. See,
I'll be down at Point in the Pan. I'll be on one side of the bay and then the other side of the bay.
Glenn and I will wave.
You don't need to wave. I'll hear you.
True. That's about right too. So yeah, Workshop Central USA, here we come. Beard, where are we? How are we going for time on this podcast? I think we can probably squeeze in a deer cam. But let's go quickly. Beer donations. Alison Faskin, thanks, bought us a jug.
She did buy us a jug.
Thanks, Alison.
She's lovely, Alison.
And Mel, someone. Who's that?
Oh.
Must be a new listener. G'day, new listener, Mel.
Mel bought 2 beers.
Thank you, Mel. Appreciate you. We're drinking them right now as we speak. Deer Cam, episode 103, Deer Cam. Deer Cam. Hope you boys are well. See, it says Deer Cam.
Hang on. What's it called?
Hope you boys are well. We've really got to change this to Dear Us or something.
Dear boys. Dear boys.
Sounds.
I'm not feeling as special as I used to now. It's not my segment.
No, it is your segment because I'm going to ask you. Hope you boys are well. Love the show and can't wait to join you on one of your workshops next year. So I'm guessing they've already booked.
Utah.
Yes. Nice. So I'm wanting your take on intentional camera movement in brackets.
Not international.
Intentional camera movement in brackets ICM. I've seen a bit of this around lately in landscape photography. Sometimes I feel like I'm looking at a mistake rather than an intentional. That's good. Any tips on achieving a more intentional look? Cheers. P.S. I bought you a beer. Well, no, you didn't. Your name's not in the. Well, you must have done.
Yeah,
Gav in Launceston.
Did he buy us a beer?
Hello, Gav. Haven't seen anything there from Gav, but I'm sure it's.
Maybe
if you haven't, Gav, you didn't go through, so you need to go back to dsps.com.au and have another crack. Intentional camera movement, Cameron. I have seen this as a trend. Shout out to Phil, who came in and printed his ICM photos today. Had a good chat with Phil about this today. About what his take on ICM. He does a lot. Good customer minded, prints a lot with me. What do you think about ICM, Cameron?
Sounds like it's a loaded question, Brendan.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep. Mm-hmm. Go back probably 3 years, and I used to think it was the stupidest thing people ever did with a camera.
Yes.
Like intentionally move your camera to get all these blurry bits and make it look all fancy and abstracty and arty. But then I turned my opinion differently. You've done a 180. I've done a 180. Well, I won't say a 180. I've done like a 120.
Okay, well, that's enough.
I'm moving towards being okay with it. So I've seen some good examples of it, and I think the reason why I didn't like it at the start is because I saw some very, as Gav has said there, some very unintentional, purposely bad photos.
Sometimes I feel like I'm looking at a mistake rather than anything intentional.
Yeah, so I think I saw a lot of examples of mistakes, which is why I was like, why are people doing it? But when it's done nicely and done properly and done with nice colors or the nice subject, it actually works quite nicely. So, especially with water, if you're doing like oceans or, even behind me could work with those different layers of colors, you can get some interesting sort of blur movements. So I don't mind it these days if it's done nicely. If it's done poorly or someone's very new at it, then it doesn't look great. So it does take a bit of practice. The only tip I would say that because I've done it a couple of times myself, and we've talked about it in workshops, is I find having it on a tripod works really well, where you can sort of just pan the camera really well up or down or across. So that'd be my tip, is try and do it on a tripod. And from memory, when I've done it, the shutter speed for me, about half a second to a second, seemed to work pretty well for me when I started doing it. So, but I would say the biggest tip is try and find topics or subjects that are quite interesting. So, if you've got different layers of colors, the best one I saw was a shot of the ocean that had the deep blue ocean, but then it had this beautiful sunset or sunrise, I can't remember. And they did the panning and the intentional movement. So you had this beautiful color along the top, which is that warm color mixed with the blue. The other one that works well is the snow gums, or the eucalypts, where people go up or down in the eucalypts and they stretch the trees out a bit with the green stuff like that. So look, if it's something worth practicing, it's a good little skill to have in your kit. But it's a fine line between looking good and looking terrible, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And the good thing about digital is, of course, you take it didn't work, you have another crack. But the key for me with intentional camera movement, or ICM, is color and shooting blue hour. So after the sun's gone down, you've still got that beautiful purple magenta sort of haze on the horizon, and you want to just really paint with that color. I think that can work really well. I've seen that done. Unfortunately, I've kind of seen it done to death, but I'm sure there's people out there who can give it a crack. And I'll tell you what would look really cool would be like Outback Australia, some red earth kind of stuff.
That's what made me think, like this color behind me, that sort of earthy color would work well. So you know what, as well, here's something I've found out about ICM in the last probably couple of years. Is I think it's a very heavily female dominated genre.
That's interesting.
I think if I had $1 for every time people email me about a workshop saying, "Oh, will you talk about ICM, or can we try some ICM?" It's predominantly females. So maybe they're more abstract, or maybe the colors seem to attract them a bit more.
It'd be pretty difficult to teach ICM. I think it's such a personal thing, like how you want. It's almost like you look at a scene and you go, "I could do some ICM here." You do it, and then you look at the shot, you look at the result after. It's not like you're trying to achieve a certain result. Does that make any sense? Like you look at it and you go, "Oh wow, that worked," or it just didn't. It's like, I don't know. And
surely, I was going to say, surely the first ICM was a mistake.
Of course,
someone's just pressed their shutter button on. Oh my, and they've gone, "Oh, I've moved the tripod. Oh, that actually looks pretty good."
Yeah, I tell you what you can do as well if you want to muck around with ICM in Photoshop, is pull up that photo that you've got behind you, for example, chuck it into Photoshop, select the whole area and hit motion blur. And you will get pretty much what that would have looked like if you used ICM. So
how do you know these things?
I don't know. I've been in the industry a little while, mate. Not my first rodeo, buddy.
Aren't you busy all day long? How can you possibly have time to?
Well, it's a good way to fake ICM. So if you want to do motion blur, so you're doing it now, aren't you? You just basically select the whole image and then, just go blur, motion blur. Make sure that your line's horizontal.
Select
so
all.
The blur's going sideways.
Is it a filter? Motion? Is it a filter? Blur?
Yeah, blur, motion blur.
Blur.
Talk amongst yourself, people. Cam's actually
motion
going to
blur. Motion
and then
blur.
he's going to save it and change his background to it. So,
well, hang on, I've got to do some weird stuff here. I've got to. Oh wow, hang on. All right, let's try that.
This is making really good radio tonight.
Yeah, keep talking, Brendan. This is great.
Sorry, I just had a bit. Right. If you have a Dear Cam question, by all means send it in. You can send us Dear Cam through dsps.com.au, or you can just send it through all our social media stuff, which is linked in the description.
Look, I just gave you a fantastic way to plug everything else, and
that
was great.
Did I give you? Did I stretch enough? Are you done? Have you got your intentional camera movement done? Did it work?
It did work. I just can't see where I freaking saved it. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Right, there you go. Intentional camera movement using motion blur. Bang.
Motion blur. That was there. You go.
Yep. There you go. Actually, there's something about it. I don't know what it is. It's almost like a double exposure, but it's worked quite well.
That looks shit, Dan. Brendan.
Now, what you can do with motion blur as well is you can move the motion blur Horizontal.
Yes,
So
I
you're
did that.
vertical. You can move it
I did
horizontally
that.
so it blurs
I
that
did.
way.
I did that on purpose. Here's another one I'll put up there. Look at this for
Here's
a
one I
spot.
created earlier.
Is that for a place?
That's
Antelope Canyon.
That's right. So how much are you going to sell that image for, Cam?
1.9. And if you don't think I can do that, you can lick my.
That's right. So
I went to Peter Lick's gallery in Vegas.
And
he doesn't listen, does he? He's got
please.
too much money, apparently.
He's above us.
He's above us. I actually, what I thought was funny, I walked into the gallery and there was a guy there, not Peter Lick, but I FaceTimed a good friend of the show, TP, because apparently TP knows Peter.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I'd get TP live on there to critique his work, but TP backed out pretty quickly. He didn't want to play games. So yeah. Really? Okay. So I tell you what, was I impressed? There's certainly some stunning shots he's got.
Yeah.
But I actually found a lot of them were really not that great. Like there was, like it's like he put I think there's a lot of Photoshop goes in some of his work. He had like some super moons that looked just ridiculously big in scenes, and things were very highly saturated. But he had some others.
Saturation is his big thing. A lot of photographers, when they go to a Peter Lick gallery, that's the first thing they mention is how saturated they are. He does also print a lot on. We used to call it Cibachrome. I'm not sure what it's called these days, but Cibachrome or something like it was what it used to be called. It's not Ilfochrome, it's Cibachrome, which is highly reflective. And of course, he used a lot of black walls with and the images just pop because he puts floodlights on them.
Look, the gallery itself was beautiful.
It's a stunning place, isn't it?
Really beautiful. But I looked at some of the shots. I'm like, look, that's great. That's really good. Dan and I both walked through there. And the guy behind the counter was very lovely. He's like, "Oh, tell us what you think, and don't hold back, blah blah." Yeah. And so we looked through, and then a couple of we're looking there like, that looks poxy. That's been photoshopped to hell. Yeah. There's other ones where it's like, oh, that looks really nice, or that one's really oversaturated. So yeah, he had some really cool stuff. And then we saw the one that was so expensively famous that he sold. I think it's called the Ghost Canyon or something like that. It's called, which is in Antelope. Yeah. It's pretty much the front door of it. But one thing I learned about that is because that's got a big beam of light that comes down into it.
Yes.
And I think how he's created that is by disturbing a bit of the dust or the sand on the floor.
That's exactly right. I've read that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so he's sort of
which he openly admits.
Yeah. Whether or not it sold for $2 million, I don't know. I've heard stories that might be a bit of BS, but
that he bought it himself and all this.
He bought it himself, or his mate bought it and he paid him back.
Maybe Tom bought it.
I doubt it. Tom can't rub 2 cents together these days.
No, but Tom in inverted commas bought it.
Oh, well, I don't know. Secretly, I think Tom wants to be Peter Lick.
Does he?
I think so. He tries to dress the same. They have the same sort of attitude.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, did you hear they did another podcast? They did like one.
They did not. And we're not talking about their show on our show. They can get stuffed.
Yeah. That's it. Get stuff. Anyway, we went and had a look at the gallery. It was pretty cool. It was actually in the hotel we were staying at, the Mandalay Bay, which is handy. So we had a look. And so it was good. Good fun.
Awesome. I like it. Right. That's going to be it for episode 103. Cam, what do you got coming up? I know that you're looking forward to a bit of downtime.
I'll just type in there what I'm doing.
Very good. Yes.
I'm not doing much.
Loud, but thank you.
No, I've got nothing. Well, next month I'm up there doing a few things with you and a few single day stuff.
Yeah, but that's a month away.
That's a month away. So kids go on school holidays later this week. So I'm on daddy daycare and
brilliant.
I bought a new car. I've got a new car.
Excellent. So you can finally drive it.
Yeah, I bought it and then disappeared the next day. So yeah, we might do a few day trips with the kids and go out and do some stuff. And yeah, what about you?
Exciting. I'm really happy the school holidays has arrived. Both my children were very worn out from school this year. We had a year 11 and a year 9 this year. So year 11's a big year leading into year 12 VCE here in Victoria for my daughter. So bit worn out. She has joined me in the shop for a few hours over the Christmas madness, which is great. I feel very privileged to be able to work with my daughter. That's exciting.
Especially when she does a better job than you.
Oh, there's no different. That goes without anyone does a better job than me, Cam. Doesn't have to be my daughter. But we gel really well, and customers
she's a ripper.
Customers get a bit of a kick out of it that we're a father-daughter combination. They work it out really quickly. So
you're almost like a bit of a married couple, you two. Quite funny sometimes.
We do know how to push each other's buttons, that's for sure.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
No, it's very exciting. As I say, quite exciting that she's heading into year 12 next year. So saving a lot of bickies so she can have a gap year at the end of next year. So she's working for me. And then the son just wrapped up his year 9 today. So
cool. Schoolies.
No, he's all, as I say, they're tired. They're worn out, so they're having a good break. As for me, Christmas retail is in full swing. Can I give a quick shout out to Stephen? Stephen, whose last name is one of the words of our channel's name, but that's another story. He's a lovely man, and Stephen came to pick up his canvas that I made for him on Saturday, and very, very graciously waited in Ocean Grove for 90 minutes while I came back from Geelong just so he could meet me. He was very keen to say g'day. Big fan of the show, loves the show. Got a nice big canvas with a timber frame on it. And Stephen, it looks great. He sent me a photo of it hanging in his house, and it looks fantastic. So good work.
It's amazing. It's amazing his last name's Photo, though.
That's right. It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, and he's a photographer. Who would have thought?
What are the odds? Crazy.
Yeah. That's actually Stephen's show.
Steve, I actually thought it might have been Stephen the. So.
It's Stephen the. That's exactly right.
Fill in the blanks.
That's right. There you go, Steve. I told you get a plug, and you got a big one. Hopefully, you've listened right to the end.
I was going to say,
people tuned out by now.
No one's listened here, mate. We can talk about anything.
This is the area where we could just work blue, and no one would even know because no one.
We could drop anything we want in here.
That's right. According to the algorithm, you all tuned out 10 minutes ago. So
yeah, that's it. Hey, boobs. If we say boobs,
exactly.
Boobs.
That'll get us out. We need to get more of that on the show.
Stay tuned, and there'll be a set of boobs at the end.
We'll be a reel before you know it.
God, I'm surprised we haven't been, to be honest.
Good to have you back, Cam. Good show.
Thanks, mate.
We will see you for episode 104 later in the week. We're going to double down this week because
why not?
We just are.
It's Christmas.
At Christmas. That's right.
It's Christmas. Yes.
That's right. Exactly. This has been episode 103 of the Down South Photo Show. We'll see you for episode 104 later on the week.
Radio. See you, y'all.
Cheerio.